You've been told that controlling blood sugar is all about cutting carbs, taking your medication on time, and hoping your numbers don't get worse. But what if that belief is incomplete and quietly working against you? What if the real reason your blood sugar refuses to stabilize has nothing to do with willpower, discipline, or even the drugs you're taking? Here's what should make you pause. Most people with diabetes are fighting the disease at the surface level, while a deeper problem keeps getting ignored. It's rarely discussed in appointments. It's almost never tested. And yet without it, insulin can knock on your cells all day long and still be ignored. Not because insulin is weak, but because your cells are unable to respond. That silence has consequences. While you're focusing on food and medication, this hidden deficiency keeps sabotaging blood sugar from the inside. Glucose stays trapped in your bloodstream. HbA1c slowly creeps up. Damage accumulates quietly, first in nerves, then in blood vessels, kidneys, and the heart long before symptoms feel urgent enough to scare you. And the most unsettling part is this: many people doing everything right are still deteriorating simply because they were never told what their body's actually missing. Not a new drug, not a miracle cure, but a fundamental biological requirement that insulin depends on to work at all. Once you see this, you can't unsee it, because the problem was never just high blood sugar. The problem was that the system controlling it was breaking down in silence, and no one warned you where to look. Magnesium bisglycinate is often mentioned in diabetes conversations, but almost never explained in the way it should be. For many people with prediabetes or type 2 diabetes, magnesium deficiency is not a side issue. It is the silent problem that slowly destroys insulin sensitivity long before blood sugar numbers become alarming. Picture someone in their late 40s or 50s. They cut sugar, eat less rice, maybe even walk every evening. Yet their fasting glucose keeps rising year after year. Medications are added. Lab tests are repeated. But no one asks the real question: why is insulin present, but glucose still cannot enter the cells? This is where magnesium becomes the missing link. Magnesium is required to activate insulin receptors at the cellular level. Without enough magnesium, insulin is like a key that fits the lock but cannot turn it. The signal is there, but the door stays closed. Multiple studies have shown that low magnesium levels are strongly associated with insulin resistance, higher fasting glucose, and a higher risk of developing type 2 diabetes. And here is the problem most people never hear: more than half of adults are estimated to be magnesium deficient, especially those under chronic stress, sleeping poorly, or taking long-term medications. Now, not all magnesium supplements are the same. Many people try magnesium oxide or citrate, experience stomach discomfort or diarrhea, then give up. Magnesium bisglycinate is different. It is bound to glycine, an amino acid that improves absorption and allows magnesium to enter cells gently without irritating the gut. This higher bioavailability matters because insulin signaling happens inside the cell, not in the bloodstream. Clinical observations show that correcting magnesium deficiency can improve insulin sensitivity, reduce fasting glucose, and lower HbA1c over time. Not by forcing blood sugar down, but by restoring how the body is supposed to work. There is another layer most people overlook. Magnesium bisglycinate also calms the nervous system. Chronic stress raises cortisol. Cortisol raises blood sugar. Magnesium helps lower cortisol and improves deep sleep, the exact window when insulin sensitivity is repaired overnight. This is why magnesium bisglycinate works slowly but powerfully. Typical doses around 200 to 400 milligrams per day, taken consistently, support metabolic repair over weeks and months. You are not flipping a switch. You are rebuilding a broken system. Magnesium bisglycinate forms the foundation of blood sugar recovery. Without it, diet changes and medications must work much harder than they should. But understanding magnesium alone is not enough, because there is another mineral imbalance that silently accelerates inflammation and beta cell damage even faster than insulin resistance itself. And that is what we need to talk about next. If magnesium is the mineral that helps insulin knock on the door of your cells, then selenium is the one that protects the entire house from slowly burning down without smoke or alarms. After insulin resistance sets in, the next invisible enemy that accelerates diabetes is not sugar itself, but chronic oxidative stress quietly damaging tissues day after day. Most people never hear this part. Blood sugar does not rise simply because you ate too much. It rises because the cells responsible for regulating glucose are being attacked from the inside. And that attack comes from oxidative stress, a state where free radicals overwhelm the body's defense systems. Now imagine someone who has lived with high blood sugar for years. Medications are adjusted, diets are tried and abandoned, but inflammation keeps rising. Fatigue becomes constant, vision blurs slightly, numbness appears in the feet. These are not random symptoms. They are the downstream effects of oxidative damage, especially to pancreatic beta cells and blood vessels. This is where selenium enters the picture, specifically in the form of selenomethionine. Selenium is not just another trace mineral. It is a core component of antioxidant enzymes like glutathione, peroxidase, one of the body's most powerful defenses against oxidative stress. Without enough selenium, these enzymes cannot function properly no matter how healthy your diet looks on paper. Scientific data consistently show that people with type 2 diabetes often have lower selenium levels than healthy individuals. Low selenium status has been associated with increased inflammation, higher oxidative stress markers, and faster progression of diabetic complications. In simple terms, when selenium is missing, damage accelerates silently. Selenomethionine matters because it is the most bioavailable and stable form of selenium. Unlike inorganic selenium forms that pass through the body quickly, selenomethionine is incorporated into proteins and stored for long-term use. This allows the body to maintain steady antioxidant protection instead of short, unreliable spikes. There is also a metabolic angle that rarely gets discussed. Selenium plays a role in thyroid hormone regulation, and thyroid hormones directly influence how efficiently your body uses glucose. Even mild thyroid dysfunction can worsen blood sugar control without showing obvious symptoms. By supporting selenium status, you are indirectly stabilizing metabolic rate energy balance and insulin responsiveness. From a storytelling perspective, this explains why some people do everything right and still feel stuck. They lower carbs, they take medications, but oxidative stress continues damaging insulin-producing cells faster than the body can repair them. Selenium does not lower blood sugar directly. It protects the systems that keep blood sugar stable in the first place. Clinical studies suggest that selenium intake within a safe range, typically around 100 to 200 micrograms per day, supports antioxidant defenses and may reduce markers of inflammation in people with metabolic disorders. This is not about megadosing. More is not better. Balance is everything with selenium, and this is the mistake many supplements and doctors make. They treat diabetes as a glucose problem, not a cellular survival problem. Selenium works quietly in the background, shielding cells from destruction, so other interventions, including magnesium and lifestyle changes, can actually work. Another overlooked benefit of selenomethionine is its role in immune regulation. Chronic low-grade inflammation is a defining feature of insulin resistance. Selenium helps regulate immune signaling, preventing the immune system from staying stuck in a constant low-level attack mode that worsens insulin signaling and vascular damage. This is why selenium deficiency does not announce itself loudly. It does not cause pain at first. It causes slow deterioration. And by the time symptoms appear, damage has often been accumulating for years. When magnesium helps insulin communicate, selenium helps cells survive the message. Together, they form a protective base layer for metabolic repair. One improves signaling, the other prevents breakdown. But even this powerful combination still does not address one final mechanism that directly mimics insulin inside the cell itself. Because there is a third factor that does not just support insulin, does not just protect cells, but actually amplifies glucose uptake in a way most people have never been told about. And understanding that mechanism may change how you see blood sugar control entirely. But just knowing this is still not enough, because there is another factor that is even more dangerous if ignored. If magnesium helps insulin speak more clearly and selenium protects the cells from being destroyed, then vanadyl sulfate does something far more controversial. It doesn't just support insulin. In many cases, it behaves like insulin itself directly at the cellular level. And this is where the conversation becomes uncomfortable, because this is not a weak mineral, not a gentle helper, and definitely not something to take lightly. Vanadyl sulfate belongs to a class of compounds that can activate insulin receptors, even when the body has become resistant to insulin. In simple terms, it can force the door open when insulin can no longer get in. That sounds powerful. And it is. But power always comes with responsibility and with risk. To understand why vanadyl sulfate gets so much attention, imagine someone whose blood sugar stays high no matter what they do. Diet changes help a little. Medications help temporarily. Magnesium improves sensitivity. Selenium protects the cells. But glucose still struggles to enter the cells efficiently. This is advanced insulin resistance, where signaling pathways are severely impaired. Vanadyl sulfate works differently. Research shows it can activate insulin signaling pathways downstream of the insulin receptor, meaning glucose uptake can increase even when insulin itself is not working properly. This is why some studies observe rapid reductions in fasting glucose, post-meal glucose spikes, and even HbA1c levels in certain individuals. And rapid is the key word here. Unlike magnesium or selenium, vanadyl sulfate does not work slowly in the background. Its effects can appear within days or weeks. That speed is exactly why it attracts attention, and also why it demands caution. In controlled research settings, vanadyl compounds have demonstrated insulin mimetic effects, improving glucose transport into muscle and fat cells. Some studies reported HbA1c reductions comparable to early pharmaceutical interventions. But here's the part that rarely gets emphasized in online discussions. The therapeutic window is narrow. This mineral does not forgive dosing mistakes easily. Too little does nothing. Too much can push blood sugar dangerously low or place stress on the kidneys. This is not a supplement you experiment with. It is a compound that must be respected. From a physiological standpoint, vanadyl sulfate increases glucose uptake by enhancing phosphorylation pathways involved in insulin signaling. It essentially bypasses part of the broken communication system. That is impressive. But it also means the body's natural safeguards are partially overridden. This explains why vanadyl sulfate is never the first step. It only makes sense after foundational issues are addressed. If magnesium is low, vanadyl sulfate may increase glucose uptake, but worsen cellular stress. If selenium is deficient, forcing glucose into damaged cells can accelerate injury rather than repair. That's why context matters. Vanadyl sulfate is not a standalone solution. It is a tool, and like any powerful tool, it can either repair or destroy, depending on how it is used. There are also cardiovascular considerations. Improved glucose control often leads to better blood pressure and lipid profiles, and some studies suggest vanadyl compounds may support vascular function indirectly. But again, dosage and duration are critical. Long-term unsupervised use increases risk, particularly for kidney stress. This is especially relevant because people with diabetes already place heavy demands on their kidneys. Any compound that alters glucose handling must be approached conservatively. Lower doses divided throughout the day, and often combined with vitamin C to improve tolerance and reduce oxidative strain, are strategies discussed in research contexts, not casual supplementation advice. And there is a group that should never consider vanadyl sulfate. Pregnant women. Period. No exceptions. The risk profile is simply not acceptable. What makes vanadyl sulfate fascinating is also what makes it dangerous. It exposes a truth most people are never told. Blood sugar control is not just about food, exercise, or even insulin levels. It is about cellular signaling integrity. Vanadyl sulfate shows how powerful that signaling can be when manipulated directly. But it also reveals the cost of bypassing the body's natural pacing mechanisms. Fast results can come with hidden consequences if foundational health is not respected. This is why mainstream medicine avoids it, and why alternative spaces sometimes glorify it without nuance. The truth sits in between. Vanadyl sulfate is neither a miracle nor a villain. It is a biochemical amplifier. When used carefully in the right context after correcting deficiencies and under informed guidance, it can support glucose control in ways few supplements can. When used recklessly, it can create more problems than it solves. And this brings the entire discussion full circle. Magnesium improves communication. Selenium protects the system. Vanadyl sulfate forces action. Each operates at a different level of the metabolic hierarchy. Skipping straight to force without stability is how people get hurt. But even understanding all three mechanisms still leaves one critical question unanswered. Why do so many people follow the right steps and still fail to maintain results long term? Because there is one final factor, not a mineral, not a supplement, but a hidden pattern that quietly undermines everything if left unaddressed. And that is where the real story continues. There is one reason blood sugar control fails again and again, even when people take the right supplements, follow the right diets, and genuinely try their best. And it has nothing to do with willpower. It has everything to do with timing. Blood sugar is not regulated the same way all day long. Your body does not play by a flat 24-hour rule. It follows a biological rhythm. In the early morning, stress hormones like cortisol are naturally higher, pushing glucose into the bloodstream before you even eat. This is why many people wake up with high fasting blood sugar and assume they did something wrong the night before, when in reality their body is just following a survival program. Later in the day, especially after the evening meal, insulin sensitivity naturally improves. This is when the body's more willing to store glucose properly instead of leaving it circulating in the blood. And at night during deep sleep, the real repair work begins. The liver recalibrates glucose output. The pancreas recovers signaling efficiency. The kidneys reduce metabolic strain. This is not optional biology. This is how humans are wired. Here's the mistake most people make. They focus on doing the right things, but at the wrong time. They eat well, but skip sleep. They manage carbs, but live in constant stress. They add interventions during the hours when the body's already resistant, then wonder why nothing sticks. Over time, this creates the belief that their body is broken beyond repair. Stress and sleep deprivation quietly sabotage everything. Chronic stress tells the brain that survival is at risk. The response is automatic. The liver releases glucose. Insulin is suppressed. Blood sugar rises even if you didn't eat. No supplement can override that signal. No pill can outwork a nervous system that thinks it's under attack. This is why some people say, I did everything right and it still didn't work. They were not wrong. They were misaligned. The order and timing of intervention matters just as much as what you take or what you eat. When timing is ignored, the body fights back. When timing is respected, the body cooperates. Blood sugar becomes more predictable. Energy stabilizes. The constant feeling of failure starts to fade. Not because you tried harder, but because you finally worked with your biology instead of against it. This realization changes the entire conversation. Diabetes management is not about control through force. It is about restoring rhythm. And when rhythm returns, many systems begin to self-correct in ways that no isolated intervention ever could. And once you understand this, the final step is no longer about fear or restriction. It becomes about choosing a direction your body is already trying to move toward. At this point, the most important thing to remember is this: you are not powerless and you are not broken. Blood sugar problems don't develop overnight, and they don't resolve through one extreme decision either. Real improvement comes from understanding your body, respecting its signals, and choosing smarter steps instead of harder ones. You don't need to change everything today. Start small. Pay attention to timing. Support your body instead of fighting it. When the foundation is right, the results begin to show quietly but consistently. More stable energy, fewer spikes, better mornings, and over time, a sense that your body is finally working with you, not against you. If this video helped you see blood sugar control from a clearer, more realistic perspective, do yourself a favor and save it. Come back to it when things feel confusing again. And if you want clear evidence-based health insights explained in a way that respects your intelligence, make sure to subscribe to the channel. New videos here are designed to help you make informed decisions, avoid common traps, and take better care of your blood sugar and long-term health without fear or hype. And if you have a question or there's a topic you want us to break down next, leave a comment below. Your experience matters more than you think. Take care of your health, start with understanding, and we'll see you in the next video.